Hello everyone, my name is Szycrotic, I'm a transfem content creator, and I asked on my Twitter if you have any questions to me about being a trans VTuber in this space, and you had a lot. Let's get right into it. Is green your favorite color, or is there more of the outfits you have? Green is genuinely my favorite color. I don't really know why specifically it's my favorite color, but it is. What was it like building your channel up from nothing as a trans streamer, and how did you manage to catch so much attention? I didn't actually start as a trans streamer. I was just male presenting, just at the time a dude who was in the community. I didn't really get anywhere for a very long time, and it's only really kind of right now where I feel like I've started to build my own community that isn't from somebody else or because I collab with someone else. And the only reason why I'm getting more and more popular is kind of because of my Twitter. I started making more Twitter-centric content, and it's been very cool and very fun. As of late, do you think the VTubing space is a safe place for trans people? Yes. I do genuinely think the VTuber space is one of, if not the safest community as a trans person to be in. Of course, as a internet user, you should just be also more wary of curating your feed. Remember, block stuff you don't want to see, don't interact with things that make you sad or mad, stuff like that. What do you think of the discourse of trans rights in the VTuber space, good or bad? I think anyone who says anything other than trans rights or human rights just shouldn't be listened to. When it comes to voices, is it always a struggle to feel like you despise your own voice? What was your experience regarding finding your own voice, or a way to beat down those bad self-thoughts? Learn how to edit. Learning how to edit as a content creator, one, is very important, and two, it is how I got used to my voice. Is there anything we can do as a community to ensure trans creators feel safe expressing themselves besides supporting their content and defending their rights in public spaces? Kinda not really. That is exactly what you should do. Obviously, you can just talk more about your community being an open space and safe place for trans people, but if you're not a trans creator or trans in general, it's understandable that you're not going to be thinking too much about our issues. Just be open, communicate that your space is a safe place for trans people, and that is kind of all you have to do. Who are your biggest inspirations in content creation? Porcelain Maid, Miss Lala, Lena Lazar, Yuko EX, I think that's how you say their name, my roommate Faye, and myself. I would like to know what plans you have for the future, any games or projects you like to give a shot at. I want to basically make more documentary style videos, similar to what I did with the VTuber drama video or the opening to my interview with merry-go-round. But right now I'm definitely focusing more on kind of only two things, which is VTubing slash, other content creators and making content with other content creators, and content around being trans. What was it like to find your rhythm? I guess more specifically, how was it finding your routine as a content creator? I struggle with mine with everything happening in such a sporadic time. I'm curious to hear how you have it structured. I think my biggest issue was also structure and making content on a regular basis, because I would want to create content about so many different things. But my biggest tip is find your niche. Find one or two things that you want your entire being and channel and everything to be focused on, and just hyper focus on those two things. My structure, on the other hand, is completely sporadic. I come up with the idea, I write the script, I record a little bit, I rewrite it, maybe I re-record it. Creating my videos isn't always a linear process. I also use a lot of different tools to just make editing a lot faster and uploading a lot easier. I use a website called Metricool, basically a website that lets you upload to multiple platforms in one go, and I use a plugin called Excalibur for my Premiere Pro, which lets me hotkey on my Stream Deck a bunch of effects and edits that is just kind of easy to do but takes a little time to do, that I could just now press a button on my Stream Deck to do. I just try to focus on making as much content with the least amount of effort when it comes to the annoying parts. What do you feel was your biggest obstacle in making content as a trans VTuber? Example, voice, networking, etc. Love your content, by the way, keep it up. Thank you! My biggest obstacle, I guess, as a content creator, especially around making content around being trans, is definitely coming up with new ways to say the kind of same things. And I think a lot of content creators can relate to that. Another one is obviously just dysphoria in general, especially when it comes to my voice. There are days where I listen to my voice and I'm kind of like, oh shit, like I sound like that. And there are other days where like I sound like the Roadman TikTok.
Is there any chance that you're pregnant? So I said to him,
"Did you just say man's pregnant?" "Oh, well, thankfully not, but bless up for the compliment, fam, still. Man's unclockable, a lie."
Or at least that's how I perceive myself. How would you say VTubing has had, if any, effect on your trans journey? What would you have done differently early? Finally, how can I become as pretty as you? VTubing is kind of the main reason why I found that I was trans. Not necessarily because I was a VTuber, but I only made a TikTok account because I am a VTuber and I want to protect my name. And so because of TikTok and because of me just getting exposed to other trans people, that's kind of how I found out I was trans. And I remember very specifically laying down in my bed scrolling through TikTok, and it was one of those like before and then after pictures. I remember like sitting up and going like, holy shit, you can do that, out loud to myself. And that's kind of where it all started. I also would like to go back in time and kind of just slap myself across the head and just be like, you're a woman, you're a trans woman, get the fuck over it. Because early on, I was like, no, I'm a cis male, but I just like being called she, her. And I just wish I could just have started this whole process a lot earlier and also just stop being such a stubborn bitch. What are some of the biggest hurdles you face in the community so far? Like with anything and with anywhere else in any community, it's just people being bad eggs. People say they're gonna do one thing, but they don't do it, or they completely 180 on you or ignore you. People using you, stuff like that. Especially if you have a skill like editing or drawing or art, that is definitely something that will be taken advantage of by the wrong people if you let it happen. In every community, I think there are always going to be bad eggs and people who are just bad and shit and just terrible. So you can never find a community that doesn't have any. But those are definitely my biggest annoyances and hurdles I have faced in the community, just people being fake. I have a homie who's questioning if he's trans or not, so I'm gonna ask the question they asked me since I couldn't fully answer them. How did you figure out you were trans originally, and what did dysphoria feel like to you? Dysphoria feel like a itch and a want to change something that you physically can't alter as much as you want to. But to answer the question in a very direct way, how do you know if you are trans? It kind of boils down to other pronouns and other clothes, and you sitting there being like, oh, I wish I looked like that to the opposite gender or to whatever you want to be, and that feels right to you and feels good, then you are probably trans. If you look at women and you go, oh, they're cute out loud, but inside of yourself you're kind of thinking like, oh, I wish I was them, and sit with those emotions a little bit, you probably are trans. But it's also a little deeper than that. You can also think of it in the way of, do you want to be perceived as a woman? Are you okay with that? Is that something you actually want? Because as a trans woman, that is what I want. I want somebody to look at me, be like, that's a woman, and think of me and treat me like one. So it's a lot of those kind of questions and just being very brutally honest with yourself. That, and also remember, being trans isn't a thing you have to be for life. A lot of people go into being trans because they are unsure and they think this is what is right for them, and they try it for a while and they even live as whatever gender they want to be. Sometimes even after 5 or 6 or even longer years, they go, no, it wasn't what I want, or it isn't what I want anymore, and detransition, and that's okay. Being trans and messing around with gender stereotypes is kind of the cool thing about being trans or non-binary or whatever. You get to kind of just play around with gender norms and try out your flavor of gender, and that's really cool. An actual question I do have is, how does one find more trans peeps to hang out with or collab with? I'm kind of shy and never know how to ask people to play. It's the same tip I've talked about a lot when it comes to being a streamer. Do not DM somebody immediately and be like, hey, want to collab and play a game with me? The best way to find people to play with and hang out with and collab with is just be part of other people's communities, be in their chats, be in their discords, hang out with them when they do hangouts. Be around them. You can also find other trans people and other trans streamers and content creators by using hashtags on YouTube or on the tags on Twitch. How to deal with hateful transphobic comments. Delete and block them. That's kind of it. If you can't handle it that day, add mods. You can even add mods on your YouTube channel and they can go and clean it up for you. Have you noticed any difference in the reception of your content before and after you openly embrace your trans identity? Yes, I 100% have gotten more support than I did before from being trans and making content around being trans and making content with other creators. And I feel like I'm being perceived in a better light even, and that feels very good, especially as somebody who feels like they haven't really fit in anywhere for their entire life. I feel like even as a VTuber back in the day before I found that I was trans, I didn't feel like I fit in properly in the VTuber sphere. And then I found that I was trans and I kind of started my journey, and I just kind of started it online as well. And people have been nothing but supportive and amazing about it, and that feels very, very good. What's the difference between being a trans streamer and a streamer that happens to be trans? So when I say a trans content creator, it is somebody who is trans and creates content around being trans and the topic of being trans. If you are a streamer who just happens to be trans, you're just a streamer who is trans, and that's it. And those are all the questions. Thank you so much for everyone asking your beautiful, amazing questions. They were very good. I will definitely do this more often if this video does well. And of course, if you want to ask me any questions, you can of course follow me over on Twitter, or if you want a direct answer in real time, follow me over on Twitch. I stream Monday, Tuesday, and Friday. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I will see you on those platforms. Mwah!